My parents cut my adopted son out of the will, then sued when they learned he's my bio son. When my best friend Amanda died in a car crash, everything turned into a scramble. I'd been in Matthew's life since he was born. I was his godfather, the guy who showed up for school events and birthdays. A drunk driver ran a red light. Amanda died on impact, and Caroline lasted 3 days in the ICU before she passed too. Matthew was 8, and at school when it happened. I still remember him walking out with his backpack, looking for them, and seeing me instead. I told him, "Hey buddy, I'm here." Amanda and Caroline had already named me as his guardian if anything happened, so the adoption moved fast. Matthew came home with me, quiet and shaken, asking when his moms were coming back. My parents were cold from the start. In front of Matthew, they acted polite, like stiff strangers. The second he left the room, my mom would say, "He's not really your son." My dad would add, "Blood matters." They bought presents for my other kids and skipped Matthew. At Christmas, they showed up with bags and said, "These are for the real grandkids," and Matthew stared at the floor like he deserved it. I told my parents to stop, and my dad shrugged like I was being dramatic. Last month, my mom called with this smug, happy tone. "We're updating our will," she said. "We're leaving everything to you and your biological kids only." Then she added, "That adopted boy gets nothing. We won't have strangers inheriting family money." My jaw locked. "He's my son," I said. My dad cut in sharp and sure. "He'll never be our grandson." That word hit me hard, and that's when I laughed, because they had no idea what they were saying. Years before the crash, Amanda and Caroline struggled to have a baby. Amanda had miscarriages and medical issues, and Caroline couldn't carry a pregnancy to term. One night, Amanda called me crying and asked if I'd be their donor. I said yes right away. We did it through a clinic, everything official, and we kept it private so nobody would treat Matthew differently. Legally, I signed away parental rights back then. In real life, I stayed close as Uncle Paul and never interfered. After they died, I needed the adoption to be clean and permanent, so my lawyer suggested a DNA test for the paperwork. The results came back. Matthew was my biological son. I didn't tell my parents because it shouldn't have mattered, but after that will call, I decided they were going to hear the truth from me, face to face. I invited my parents for Sunday dinner and made sure Matthew was at a friend's house. I let them eat and talk about normal stuff. Then I slid the DNA report across the table and said, "Since you're so focused on blood, read that." My dad squinted at it, then his face went pale. My mom grabbed it and shook her head. "This has to be wrong," she said. "It says he's your biological son." I said, "Yep, I was the donor. He's been my biological son this whole time." They just sat there, frozen. My mom started crying and saying, "We didn't know." My dad backpedaled fast. "If we'd known, we would have acted differently," he said. I leaned forward. "So you were fine being cruel to a kid who lost his parents, as long as you thought he wasn't blood?" My mom tried to defend it. "We were protecting the family," she said. I said, "You were punishing a child for being orphaned." My dad got loud. "You can't talk to us like that," he snapped. Then my mom wiped her face and said the part that made my stomach turn. "If he's our biological grandchild," she said, "we can get visitation." My dad nodded like he'd won something. "Grandparents' rights," he said. I told them, "No, you don't get to ignore him for 2 years, then demand access because a paper says you share DNA." My dad said, "You can't keep him from us." I said, "Watch me," and they stormed out. Over the next week, they called non-stop. One minute it was begging, the next it was threats. My mom left a voicemail saying, "Don't act like he's family. He isn't." My dad left one saying, "We won't spend a dime on that boy." Another message said, "He'll never be our grandson," with the same smug tone I'd heard for years. I saved every voicemail. Then a legal letter showed up. They were suing for grandparents' rights and claiming I deceived them. My lawyer asked, "Do you have proof of how they treated him before they found out?" I sent her the voicemails, labeled by date. She listened and said, "Good." In court, my parents showed up dressed nice and acting gentle. Their lawyer told the judge they'd been misled and deserved a bond with their grandchild. My lawyer plugged in a speaker and said, "We'd like to play a few messages." The first voicemail filled the room with my mom saying Matthew wasn't family. The next was my dad saying blood matters and Matthew would never be their grandson. The judge stopped the audio, stared at them and said, "Petition denied," and my parents' faces dropped as the gavel hit. Now my family is saying I'm cruel for cutting them off. Was I wrong?